Sir, I am Dr. Nalini Avinash Vapnare, presently working as at Graf Maharashtra Vidyapit, Pune. Today's our topic is subaltern studies. Under that, we have to study subaltern historiographies related its meaning, various definitions, subaltern writers, nature of subaltern studies, sources of subaltern studies, Ranjit Guha's views on subaltern studies, evaluation, and some reference books we have referred for this. H1 subaltern history take a detailed study, but in briefly I am going to explain here. Then meaning of subaltern study. Before we have to go to meaning of subaltern study. When we start there, just I want to introduce about it. A series entitled Subaltern Studies, appearing in the last 2 decades of the 20th century, has introduced an almost new genre of history writing on modern India. Editing the first of the series, Ranjit Guha protests that the historiography of Indian nationalism is best with a prejudiced elitism of two kinds, both sharing the view that the development of national consciousness and the making of the Indian nation were alike achievements. The first of these, colonial or imperial historiography, based on the narrow behavioralistic approach, looks upon Indian nationalism as the response of the Indian bourgeoisie allied to the stimulus provided by the British ideas, institutions, opportunities, and resources. The second kind, Indian nationalist historiography, on the other hand, pictures Indian nationalism as primarily an idealist venture in which the indigenous elite lead the people from subjection to the freedom. Neither of these two views can explain Indian nationalism because neither acknowledge the contribution made by the people on their own, that is independently of the elite, to the making and development of that nationalism. For this reason, according to Guha, elitist historiography cannot explain such instance of popular initiative asserting itself as the anti-revolt act of 1919 or the Quit India movement of 1942. Guha asserts that parallel to elite politics, there was a domain of people's politics in which the principal actors were the subaltern classes and groups constituting the mass of the population. He feels that elitist historiography, which does not recognize this fact, should be resolutely fought by developing an alternative discourse based on the recognition of the subaltern domains of politics. That is the reason they enter of subaltern historiography. So here the subaltern historiography basically written on the basis of here the elite group, but subaltern history is not study on elite group. History in past we have to study history from above, but in subaltern study we study history from below. So that's why this is a brief introduction. Now we go to the meaning of subaltern studies. Subaltern is a term taken from the Anatole Gramsci's manuscript writings, means of inferior rank, whether of class, caste, age, gender, or office. The word subaltern in the title stands for the meaning of, as given in the Oxford Dictionary, that is of inferior rank. It will be used in these pages as a name for the general attribute of subordination in the South Asian society, whether this is expressed in the terms of class, caste, age, gender, and office, or in any other way. Means it's a subordinate, secondary, not primary, it's a subordinate. So that word was used there. Then many authors given a different opinion about the subaltern studies. Guha says the social group and element included to this category represent the demographic differences between the total Indian population and all those whom we have described alike. Ashok Sen mentioned in his opinion that capital, class, and communities comes under subaltern studies. The term subaltern is used to denote the entire people that is subordinate in terms of class, caste, age, gender, and office, or in any other way. Then subaltern history. The subaltern historians originally started as an Indian version of history from below approach of the West. They were also influenced by the British Marxist historians. Subaltern studies bring to light the lower section of the Indian people hitherto neglected by the historians. Means from generation to generation, from ancient to modern period, uh, people neglected these things. Now the subaltern historians focus on those points. Ranjit Guha, in her edited book Subaltern Studies volumes entitled Writings of South Asian History and Society, it was published. The title is same as the Subaltern Studies in various volumes. It was published by Oxford University Press, and the first published in 1982. The word subaltern studies history from below. So here, not history from above, we have to study history from below, like this. So present 12 volumes are available on subaltern study, and most of the means all volumes written in English language. Then these topics, these subaltern studies subjects mainly focus on or related with. One thing is a labor orientation, Marxism in tone, peasant, factory worker, tribal people and revolt, soldiers, women, common men. See, from time to time, these all things are neglected by the many historians. They never written about the common man's history, women's history, or soldiers' history, or tribal, even some tribal people culture written, but not total the people and revolt. But this subaltern historian mainly focusing these all things in their writings. Like for example, factory workers and farmers, then laborers and soldiers. Here the picture shows those things. Then tribal and women, even related to women under gender studies and her position in the society, acts, NGOs, all these things we will study in the subaltern study. Nowadays, this subaltern study included so many things related to even related to common people role also in the government and other rewards in politics also. Then, which were the sources to understand these subaltern studies? Plenty of sources available to us to study these subaltern studies under that government records, revenue records, police reports, election reports, demography reports, even oral sources give us a lot of information while we are, for example, take the study of tribal history or folklore culture history or women's history. That time the oral sources is authentic source where we have to study these all things. Even some secondary sources also important, some published books, articles, journals. These all give us a lot of information to study about the subaltern studies. Even some court documents, uh, folk tales, folk songs, folk literature. See, most of the common peoples, the folk, you will take any folk culture in related to even local, state, regional, or national or international folk culture. Whenever we are studying these folk tales, songs, literature, give us a lot of information about the particular caste, communities, people, and that persons who are staying at that time. It's a common people's or the people's history or people's culture. These folk tales, songs, culture, literature give us a lot of information while studying the subaltern studies. Even sometimes we have to take the interview method where accurately we get the information. When if we will take any project related to folk culture or folk tradition, then we go to the folk artisans places, interview with those persons, then collection information, then interpreting those things, then make the policies, then helpful to those people. So these some methods, research techniques, those all things we are using while we are studying the subaltern study. Even survey method, case study method, particular persons, place, reasons, case study also method help us to study the subaltern studies in a detailed manner. Then subaltern study is relation with the other subject. Yes, why not? Because the subaltern studies, we not study only particular person's name or religion, but we have to study related to so many things like other subjects and help also. We take economics, sociology. In economics, we study trade, commerce, labors, their movements, even wages. Related to transportations, everything covers in economics. So whilst we are studying the labor, peasants, farmers movements, that time these subjects also helpful to us. Even we take the help of the sociology also. Even while studying the folk culture, particular community, social life, there are social behavior, their culture, their family system, their diet, their worship. This all things comes under sociology. So this also helpful to us, and the sociology also helpful to us to study the subaltern study or subaltern study relation with other subject under sociology also very helpful. Even demography, population study, even anthropology, past times people's life, livings, other things while we are studying. That time also this anthropology is very helpful to us. Their ethnic culture to understand that one in detail. Then their in which era they had lived and what was their present culture. So that time it is also important. Even archaeology also help us to lot of information to scientifically through the past to present. And philology, psychology, yes, we have to study when these common people, subaltern or neglected people. Even if we take the example of Dalits, that time we also take the example of women's or peasants or laborers. That time, what was their whilst taking the movement? What was their psychology? That study also help us not to detailed study of this subaltern studies. Then history, and naturally, it is very important for us to detailedly study past events in a systematic scientific manner. Then some subaltern historians given a lot of information about their, through their writing, they are contributed to history. Under that, Anatomy Gramsci, Ranjit Guha, David Arnold brings to light the story of a long series of distributions and rebellions of hillmen in the Gunnem and Pampa Hill States of Andhra during 1839 to 1924. Even he studying the Madras famine of 1876 to 78. Like that, Gyan Pandey gives an account of the peasant reverse of Awadh during 1992, 1922, and its impact on Indian nationalism. Then Arvind Das demonstrated how erroneous it is attribute agrarian changes in Bihar during 1947 to 1978 to elect sponsored land reforms, the two major attempts at agrarian changes from the above. That is through Jamindari abolition and the Bhudan movement were not allied, sponsored, but response to the peasant discontent. The first followed after the years of agitation by Swami Sahajananda Saraswati and the powerful Kishan Sabha. And the second came on the militant communist lead peasant sang in Telangana. So like their writing, they have given information about in agriculture workers in Bureau. N.K. Chandra reveals that other historians like Deepesh Chakravarti study the condition of Calcutta jute mill workers between 1890 and 1940. In another essay on the jute mill workers during 1920 to 1915, Chakraborty shows how the Allied attitude has crept into socialist and communist ranks leaders, treating unions as their Jamindari, their contact with the workers degenerating into the hierarchical terms of Babu Kuli relationship. So most of these historian peasants, Zamindars, as well as tribal revolt, as well as related to uh, common people's revolts, they all mention in their writing. Even Shahid Amin, in his essay on Gandhi, is concerned to know how the Mahatma's charisma got itself registered in peasant consciousness. He finds that an important element in their charisma was the peasants' belief in superstition and miracles. David Herman's essays on the Devi reformist movement among the tribals of South Gujarat affords insights into tribal consciousness and must arrest the attention of the sociologist. Like that, Ramchandra Guha's essay Forestry and Social Protest in British Commune shows that the Chipko Andolan movement starting from 1973 in Commune against the commercial exploitation of forest has in fact a history beginning from the 90s of the 19th century and lasting into the 20s of the 20th century. So tribal protest as that of Jitu Shantala's movement in Marda, Northwest Bengal is a favorite theme for subaltern historiography. Gautam Bhandara. Other historians also given about this. Gautam Bhandara observed in his Four Rebels of 1857 that all the principal modes of historiography on the Great Revolt of 1857, whether nationalists as exemplified by the writings of S.B. Chaudhary or radical communist, as represented by promoters Sen Gupta and Datta have, with due elite prejudice, portrayed the great event as an elite venture. So like this, the stories point out the existence of 1857 of what Gramsci calls the multiple elements of conscious leadership. The other subaltern historians also mentioned here Eric Stokes, David Hardiman, Prat Chatterjee, Sudipta Kaviraj, Sumit Sarkar, Ajay Sakaria, Gayatri Chakraborty Spivak, K. Siva Ramakrishna, Sarojini Shah. Some examples of subaltern historian that is already mentioned that Ram Hills, Andhra Pradesh, then Nyan Panda's revolts of Awadh during 1919-1920. Then others, Shahid Amin, Mahatma Gandhi in Peasant Consciousness, Hardiman's The Tribals of South Gujarat, Chipko Andalan, Four Rebels of 1857, already I explained these things. So this historian, through their writing, they have contributed a lot to enrich the subaltern studies. Then what are the subaltern studies achievements? Subaltern historiography or bringing historical inquiry to the foundation of Indian society. It needs necessity to highlight the struggles of the workers, the peasants and the tribal. So most of the subaltern historian focus on the peasants movement, workers movement and tribal movements. Subaltern historiography essentially belongs to the category of sub-history or local narratives, supplementing and enriching mainstream historical accounts and filling up the lacune in them. Then other achievements of subaltern study, it has restored the individual human beings and groups hitherto considered too low for elite historical treatment. Means in earlier, while writing history, we have only focused on the kings, rulers, their achievements. But now the elite group only focus those things. Now while we are studying the subaltern studies, in this subaltern studies, we are focusing the all the people, or we call commoners history also involved in this subaltern study. These deserved limbs of subaltern historiography, the stages of struggle, could be brought together and in many cases woven into mainstream historiography and thereby enrich it. So while come to the evaluation of subaltern studies, while writing history used words as community, postmodern, post-structure instead of class. Then postmodern thoughts adopted in writings. Small groups fragments got the importance, neglected the movements of Phule, Shahu, and Ambedkar. In subaltern studies, most of these studies in English language, while subaltern studies, even most of the reformers movement like Mahatma Phule, Satyashodak movement, E. Shahu, Chhatrapati Shahu of Kolhapur's reforms neglected by these subaltern historians. Even Ambedkar movement, who spent his whole life for the upliftment of women, untouchables, and bring the changes in the society at the time. And these subaltern historians neglected these things. And most of the, if some other people, those who wanted to know about the subaltern studies, but one defect is we find that all these writings is in English language. So it is very difficult to other language people to study, understand, and write the subaltern history. So this writing translation in other language is very, very necessary for present time. So caste movements neglected in their writings also. Common man history writing trend started in this subaltern study when started. Then the common man's history writing is also in this time. Then the okay, before coming to the conclusion, we come to the that for examples of radical scholarship, Marxist and subaltern historiography of bringing historical inquiry to the foundation of the Indian society. In the subaltern studies, we have to come to the know the necessity to highlight the mainly basically workers, the peasants, the tribal. Even later has upset not only conventional historiography but even that of the Marxist perspective. Subaltern historiography itself belongs to the category of sub-history or local narrative, supplementing and enriching mainstream historical accounts and filling up the vacuum in them. Based on loose negative allied subaltern dichotomy, it has no greater theme than popular militancy and consciousness. Its topics are grimly partitions with no connection or sequence of any kind. A continuous and sustained narrative is outside its purview, yet its positive side should not be lost sight of. Subaltern historiography is ferreting out innumerable records from their dusty slaves in dark and digny rooms which stand witness to many a story of faith and struggle. It has reopened for historical examination questions long believed to have been settled. It has restored individual human beings and groups hitherto considered too low for the elite historical treatment. So here the struggle, subaltern study is in generally in conclusion, I want to say that subaltern studies brought a new light to in history writing and is a present trend in 21st century where the in past ancient, medieval, modern, postmodern. Now the subaltern study focusing covering so many things related to women, related to labor, related to peasants, related to workers, related to artisans, related to neglected, which were the in earlier neglected by the historians, authors, scholars. Now the all these subaltern studies under subaltern studies, lot of research was working, and they brought new thing to in the society and changes the so many things. So subaltern study is history from below, and it's focus on every neglected things which earlier not written by the historian or scholars. So it's one good trend started here. Only thing is that most of more research is required and to add new things and produce the good things for the society. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ananda.